So Daniel Jeremiah has released his NFL Mock Draft 1.0. I think it's a good idea to take a look at this for today's video. I know people think this is where I come in. I'm like Gene Steratore. I'm like, here's why the referee's bad call was actually good. Well, no, actually first he's like, well, everyone needs to understand just how hard being an NFL referee is. It's maybe the hardest job. Or, you have mother, teacher, NFL referee. Forget about being a coal miner in West Virginia getting black lung. That's not difficult. Calling pass interference, that is. But I actually may come in and be somewhat critical today. But, however, it's important to note that a mock draft is just an experiment of sorts. It's playing around with different scenarios that could play out, explaining why it may or may not make sense. And we're just going to jump into it here. At number 1, we have Fernando Mendoza. Of course, check out Daniel Jeremiah at Move the Sticks on Twitter. Fernando Mendoza seems to be the only option at number 1. Very good prospect, in my opinion. People, for whatever reason, are down on him as a number 1 overall prospect, or quarterback, even number 1 pick. But he is 6'5", close to 230, with a strong arm, decent enough mobility, and it has obviously been smart and accurate with the football. He is a solid number 1 overall pick prospect, in my opinion. As the Jets going Arvell Reese at number 2. Jets have needs all over their defense. Reese is versatile and athletic, but he thinks he's going to move to the edge full-time after playing off-ball at Ohio State. I think it's absolutely a possibility, but I think you maximize Arvell Reese by using that versatility because he does have the instincts to play off the ball. He is good enough in coverage, in my opinion, but he does really flash off the edge. That's why he'd be getting drafted at number 2 overall. And you can see actually he is being classified as an edge here, which, yeah, if you're going to draft him as an edge rusher, number 2 overall makes sense. We hardly ever see off-ball linebackers go in this range. But I think if you can maximize his versatility, that's where the value comes in. Because I don't know if he's shown enough to say that he's going to be a dominant edge right away. There's absolutely some development to be done. You can say that about, pretty much any player. Cardinals going Spencer Fano at 3. I've said this a lot, that this seems like the one pick that you can set it in stone pre-draft and it's just going to end up being true, like the Tyler Warren to the Colts. This just seems like the one, right? And I've mixed it up a little bit in recent weeks, but yeah, Fano to the Cardinals makes a ton of sense. You look at the Cardinals, offensive line is extremely weak, and Fano is a plug-and-play starter at right tackle with very good overall athleticism. So no QB in play. Fano makes sense to me. And then we have Francis Mauigoa at number 4. This offseason is about helping Cam Ward take the next step, and that starts with doing a better job of protecting him. Mauigoa has excellent size and strength and still has room to develop. So he does mention him as an offensive tackle, doesn't mention guard. There's been talk about him potentially moving inside to guard. I've said that I think he can stick at right tackle. This creates an interesting type of situation in Tennessee. I'm surprised that guard isn't even mentioned at all here based on what the Titans have done. And what I mean by that is they've paid Dan Moore, although they can get out of that contract and he's not great. And J.C. Latham, who they spent a first-round pick on, is their current starting right tackle, and that was in 2024. So really not too long ago. Would J.C. Latham be moving over to left tackle in this scenario? Are you giving up on J.C. Latham? These things seem unlikely. So then maybe you're talking about Mauigoa as a right guard. Like, I'm all for helping Cam Ward. I just don't know about Mauigoa's placement within the Titans offense. I guess it would be Latham to left tackle and Dan Moore out of the picture. That would be my thought with this. Dan Moore is under contract through 2028, but you do have an out with 0 dead cap following 2026. So, yeah, I guess he is a potential cut candidate following 2026. It could even be now if they wanted it to, but that certainly doesn't really make much sense. You'd be paying a lot of money to a backup, but I'm assuming you want to invest in the future with J.C. Latham. This is an interesting one. And then the Giants at 5, Mansour Delane, corner from LSU. Giants could add a receiver later in the draft. It's a deep class at the position, totally agree, but Delane would immediately be their most talented cornerback. I would probably agree with that. I think the Giants have a lot of corners who are fine in Paulson Adebo, if healthy, Cordell Flott, Drew Phillips, even though you have to factor in that Flott's going to be a free agent. So he is technically not on the team right now, you could say, for the future. Adding a cornerback makes a ton of sense. At number 5, it seems a little bit early for Mansour Delane, just because he's a really solid cornerback prospect. The thing is, the tape is really good. It's just the measurables and the athleticism may not be that of what you typically see for a number 5 overall pick at corner, but the tape is really good, and I think that's king. It just, will that necessarily play up in the NFL when everyone's a significantly better athlete than what you're facing in college for the most part on a week-to-week basis? Really good player, though. I like Delane a lot. I think at number 5, he would absolutely be in play. I would just be, more concerned about some of the other players in the class. If you were going to take a Sonny Styles or a Caleb Downs, I think those would also be in play. But I put out a tweet maybe a few months ago, and I said it wouldn't shock me if Jermod McCoy was the first corner off, or first defensive back off the board. So we'll get to more of this later. It's interesting to see Delane go so early when I'm not even sure he's the best corner in the draft. I don't really mind this. It just seems a tick early for Delane, but he's a really good player, so I don't really mind it. At number 6, I don't really like this very much. David Bailey to the Browns. Cleveland should take the best player available here. I don't mind that idea. A receiver could also be in play, but Bailey has the best get-off of any pass rusher in the draft. Alex Wright is a solid edge who signed a contract extension in November, but Bailey is a different caliber of player. Myles Garrett would have some talented running mates up front. So I kind of like Alex Wright, and he just did get an extension with the team. I think it's a pretty significant financial investment. I want to say it's like $10 million per year for 3 years or something like that. It's actually a little bit even over that. It's 3 years, $33 million, with $21 million in total guarantees. I don't really think the Browns, after giving this extension to Alex Wright, would be in a position to necessarily take an edge rusher at number 6 overall. I like the idea of best player available, but I just don't think it really fits the Browns. They've got a phenomenal defense. They have committed financially to Alex Wright, and you have major needs at offensive tackle, at wide receiver. I get that the tackles now are off the board, the top 2 that would really go in this range. So it seems like you're out of luck. But just take the first receiver off the board then. I know it's a deeper receiver class, but I think the top 3 are a cut above in, of course, Jordan Tyson, Mekhi Lemon, Carnell Tate. I don't know why you would pass on one of them in this scenario for David Bailey. I get that he is a really talented prospect, arguably the best pass rusher in this draft, probably so, actually, but it just doesn't seem to be a fit for what the Browns need right now. And I get drafting for need over talent is not necessarily the way to go, but if it's close, if you can take the first receiver off the board, I think I'd probably do that. Kami is at number 7. Sonny Styles, linebacker from Ohio State, says he reminds him of Fred Warner, who of course was drafted by the 49ers when current GM Adam Peters was an executive in San Fran's front office. Keep in mind, Bobby Wagner is 35 and bad, by the way, and headed for free agency. Yeah, Sonny Styles would be a major upgrade at the position. Bobby Wagner is a thumper that's good working downhill and fitting the run. He's awful in space. I mean, genuinely horrendous, and that's kind of been the case for a few years now, at least. Sonny Styles is really good in space, and he can also fit the run, fill lanes, stack and shed blockers, make tackles. Really, really great player, complete linebacker prospect. I mean, some think Sonny Styles is the best individual player in this draft, and it's not really that crazy based on his size, speed, instincts, play strength. Sonny Styles is awesome. So it'd be a big upgrade for the Commanders here. With David Bailey off the board, yeah, this seems like something that could be in play. Also, if you want to improve that pass rush, maybe a Reuben Bain as well off the edge, I think you could consider. Obviously, Caleb Downs, somebody in play as well. But it's going to be tough, as I've said, to get a box safety going in the top 5 or even in the top 10. Everyone loves Caleb Downs. I love Caleb Downs. He's a great player, instinctive player, but the NFL might just say this is a box safety. We value other positions that can make more of an impact at the top of the draft. We've seen that that's the way the NFL drafts. But I don't know. I think Caleb Downs in this particular class may be the exception and may be worth a top 10 pick. But Sonny Styles is very good too. Just food for thought. Saints at number 8 going Jeremiah Love. Loves pairing Tyler Shuck with Jeremiah Love, who I've said is a top 3 player in the draft. Arguably the best offensive player. Really, really talented. I guess the age of Alvin Kamara is over, which, yes, the writing is on the wall with that. Jeremiah Love is a stud prospect. And, yeah, I mean, you're committing toward the offense, giving someone that can help out Tyler Shuck. And, yeah, if Shuck's going to be the QB of the future, get him all the help you can get, and someone that can catch the ball in the backfield and obviously run the ball well, I don't mind it. Obviously, we can still talk about Bain as a good fit there for the Saints at 8. But he's actually the next pick at number 9 to the Kansas City Chiefs. And this seems like a match made in heaven. If Steve Spagnuolo stays with Kansas City, which he would be expected to do so, this is his exact type of edge rusher that he likes. 270, 280 pounds, rugged, good at just setting the edge and holding the line of scrimmage. He's a great run defender and obviously offers some good pass rush upside as well. He is a dog. I mean, this guy is, I've called him a sawed-off shotgun. He is powerful. He is a disruptor. He's a really, really talented player. The Chiefs need more of a pass rush, and this is the exact type of edge that they have historically gravitated toward. As we get to the Bengals and Jermod McCoy at number 10. Even with the injury, I said that this guy could be the first cornerback drafted. Here he is number 2 off the board, but still a top 10 pick after not playing at all in 2025. But as I've said, his 2024 tape was outstanding. I mean, he's got an argument to be a top 5 player in this draft based off of the 2024 tape. Just didn't see him in 2025, which makes things a little bit weird. But apparently squarely in the mix to be the top cornerback in the draft. Does that mean he goes at number 5, number 10, maybe number 15 or 20? Could be the first time we see a corner off the board. It's a weird class. I think it's going to be interesting to see ultimately how it plays out. Dolphins at 11, Caleb Downs. I've done this before. I think given how the board has fallen, this makes a ton of sense. Downs has the versatility to play multiple spots, much like his teammate in the scenario, Minkah Fitzpatrick. Downs' football intelligence and leadership are off the charts. Miami has to improve a defense that ranked 24th in scoring and 32nd in opponent completion percentage. Yeah, Downs is just BPA here, probably as well. So it just makes sense. Their secondary is horrible. Obviously, cornerback is a position that needs to be upgraded a lot. The top 2 corners are off the board, so it's between maybe Caleb Downs or Colton Hood here. Or a receiver. I mean, Carnell Tate is available. Jordan Tyson is available. And the Miami receiver room is not that good. Yes, we're all thinking about Tyreek Hill still. What's his future in Miami? It's a huge question mark. So it's Jalen Waddle and then kind of a lot of what else? Malik Washington. I don't know that he's a wide receiver 2 type of player. But he is fun. But Caleb Downs is, you're not going to hear me complain about that at 11. At number 12, Colton Hood, Jermod McCoy's Tennessee teammate. But, of course, Colton Hood stepped into that CB1 role and was awesome this year. Really, really good player, good size overall. He expects Dallas to draft an edge rusher in round 1, so he picked number 20. But he'd also like to see the Cowboys upgrade the secondary, too. Hood would be a plug-and-play starter for them. Of course, cut Trevon Diggs, who's just not very good anyway. And, yeah, Colton Hood would be a starter, like, immediately, because you have Savone Revel, who's been up and down as a rookie, and, of course, coming off of an injury, and has kind of been banged up. You have Deron Bland that is under contract, but kind of a bit of a question mark, too, with his play a bit. And then Colton Hood might provide some stability. I mean, cornerback's a position they need to upgrade. I don't know if they're necessarily looking for a nickel or a boundary. I just question, it's like, who would play the nickel in this spot? Like, are you committed to developing Savone Revel, or is that just not in play anymore, and Colton Hood is the starter? Then you have Deron Bland on the other side, and Revel's the corner that rotates in dime, or if there's an injury. Like, I don't know what the plan is for Savone Revel, but Hood's a really good player. No Sonny Styles on the board. A little bit early for another linebacker. No Caleb Downs. Not that they would necessarily do that. No Jeremiah Love. A lot of the top pass rushers are not here, although the Cowboys totally feel like a Keldrick Falk team. Rams at 13, go Mekhi Lemon. I had the Rams taking receiver in my last mock draft. I caught some flack for it, but it's like, where do the Rams go? What do the Rams do? Receiver is not a need. And, you know, Lemon absolutely fits. Yeah, tough, rugged receiver, playmaker, good after the catch, good route runner. And Devontae Adams will be a free agent following next year. Your receiving core for 2027 would look like Puka Nacua, Kanata Mumpfield, Xavier Smith. Like, is that really what you're rolling? Jordan Whittington, hook 'em horns, can't forget him. It's like receiver is a position of need for the Rams, whether people want to consider it or not. It's kind of like when the 49ers took Ricky Pearsall. It's like they kind of have some receivers, but that room fell apart pretty quickly. And that's what it could look like for the Rams if they don't invest in the position. And they get to take wide receiver 1 off the board. In this scenario, it's Mekhi Lemon, who I think is a stud player, might end up as my wide receiver 1. I think Carnell Tate still probably ends up being the first one off the board. Jordan Tyson's great too. But Lemon is awesome, and I'm glad to see him getting some wide receiver 1 love here. Ravens go Vega Ioane, something I've done as well recently. Ravens need to upgrade at guard. Tyler Linderbaum's due to reach free agency in March. That is also true. Ioane has a strong case to be considered the best offensive lineman in this year's draft. Yeah, I think he's a plug-and-play starter at guard, and the Ravens have needed that for a while. Daniel Fa'alele playing right guard has been really awful. And left guard with Andrew Voorhees, Emory Jones, I know has stepped in and played. Trevor Penning's brother, Jared, not exactly amazing. And if I don't think they're going to lose Linderbaum. I think it's a franchise tag spot, even if they don't figure out an extension. But it would be particularly weak on the interior if that happens. Cassius Howell at 15. One of my favorite players to study. Howell plays 100 miles per hour at all times and has production to back it up. 27 career sacks, 35.5 tackles for loss. Yeah, I mean, he is the definition of a speed rusher. He's got great bend. He's got a great ghost move. He's got great speed to set up outside and then win inside when he can get oversets. Fun player. His measurables are pretty bad. Like, the arm length is going to be crazy low, and the frame in general is not particularly big, which leads some concern to being potentially a designated pass rusher. I don't think it'd be a big deal for the Bucs necessarily. You don't really seem to care too much about measurables. Yeah, I think about like Elijah Cansey draft pick, and he, when healthy, is a good player for them. Yeah, I mean, they need to improve their pass rush. I don't mind it, but Cassius Howell, does he go in the top 15 of the draft with those measurables? All it takes is one team, so it's a possibility. As the Jets go Carnell Tate. There's a thought that maybe that could be the pick at number 2, and here it is at 16, although I do agree that would be early for Carnell Tate. This draft class is tough because it's just like, who are the top 5 players in the draft that will actually go top 5? You've got a running back. That's not great positional value. You've got a strong safety. That's not really a top 5 pick traditionally in terms of positional value. You got Sonny Styles, who's a linebacker, off-ball linebacker. That's not traditionally a top 5 pick here. But at the end of the day, 5 players got to go in the top 5. Francis Mauigoa might be a guard. Spencer Fano might be a guard. The tape wasn't incredible in 2025 either. Arvell Reese, is he really good enough to play off the edge? Can he do that? Or is he just someone that kind of does a bunch of different things for you? So it's like, who is actually going to go in the top 5 of this draft? It's tough. So, you know, players are going to go in maybe spots we're not used to seeing them go. I do think Tate would go a bit earlier than this, but, you know, I think back to the CeeDee Lamb draft class. I had the Cowboys getting CeeDee Lamb at 17. I had him falling, and everyone's like, you're an idiot. CeeDee Lamb is not falling to 17. He's not even going to fall out of the top 10. This is maybe a top 5 pick. Well, it doesn't always work out that way. And sometimes I actually am right. That was a fun one. Although I don't get credit, I only have Patriots fans who are like, you're an idiot. You didn't think the Patriots were going to the Super Bowl. You got me. It's just a prediction. Anyway, Carnell Tate, yeah, could he fall to 16? Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's pretty good value here. Jets, I think, need to upgrade at receiver. I like Garrett Wilson a lot. I like Adonai Mitchell, but he's a little bit too inconsistent at this point in his career. Carnell Tate can step in. The Jets need a really good third option anyway, because John Mechie's been really inconsistent, unfortunately. And beyond that, it's not phenomenal. So, yeah, this makes a ton of sense. If Tate is available at 16, yeah, pull the trigger. Or even potentially Jordan Tyson. But, yeah, this is a nice pickup. At 17, Akeem Mesidor to the Lions. Mesidor would thrive opposite Aiden Hutchinson, going from one dynamic pass rush duo with Bain at Miami to another. Akeem Mesidor is interesting. He is a very good pass rusher. Like, there's an argument to be made that he is a top, 2 pass rusher in this draft. He's just an interesting player because he's really old and also doesn't have exceptional length. 25-year-old rookie. I just don't know that that's the type of player that often goes in round 1, especially off the edge. Like that's an interesting one for me. Like you see older quarterbacks go sometimes, but a 25-year-old rookie edge rusher would be surprising. It's kind of like a Darius Alexander situation last year at Toledo, another really old rookie. And there was a thought that maybe he could end up sneaking in around 1 just because of the size and athleticism. But he was a 25-year-old rookie that came from Toledo, ends up going in the 3rd round. Akeem Mesidor here, ACC, better competition than playing at Toledo. Made a national championship run, obviously, and lost to Indiana. But was a really good player. But it's a 25-year-old edge rusher, or 25-year-old rookie edge rusher in the 1st round. That would be a little bit surprising. But I like the idea of getting more of a presence off the edge opposite Aiden Hutchinson. Like, that is good. So, it's an interesting move. We'll see if that ends up happening. Vikings at 18. I love seeing the Emmanuel McNeil-Warren love. Speaking of Toledo, he's awesome. He's awesome. Really good size, really good athlete, huge hitter. Like, you want to replace Hitman Harrison Smith? Emmanuel McNeil-Warren brings hat. This guy is powerful. Very good ball skills as well. Like, this is a really, really good player overall. I've had him in the 1st round a couple of times. It's tough to get a safety in the 1st round, so it doesn't happen very often for me, just because I really think about positional value when doing my mock drafts and traditionally how we see players get drafted. But he's got some great, great measurables. He's maybe, because of his size, a little bit stiffer, but he is an enforcer. I love Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. This is fun to see. And yeah, I think the Vikings do need to upgrade their secondary overall. A safety over a corner might be a bit surprising, but, with Colton Hood off the board, are you going Brandon Cisse at 18? I like the idea personally of Clemson's Avion Terrell. I think that's a great fit with Minnesota. But Emmanuel McNeil-Warren's interesting, and could this be the type of player that the Vikings like? Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, drafting Lewis Seen. Carolina Panthers, Jordan Tyson. Panthers have a stud in Teteroa McMillan. I like what I saw from Jalen Coker at the end of the season. But choosing Tyson would complete the receiver room. Okay. This is tough because, first of all, I love Jalen Coker. If you've been following me on Twitter, I guess even seen the videos, I love Jalen Coker. We finally saw him getting targets, and he's awesome. He's producing. Jalen Coker's a sick wide receiver 2 of the future, in my opinion. Teteroa McMillan is your 1. And then you have Lee Gett, who you're trying to develop a little bit. Would you take Jordan Tyson in round 1? On one hand, you've got a real argument that this is the best player available by a lot and is available this late in the 1st round due to the injury history. Totally get that. Totally get that. But for the Panthers, I don't know that he's the type of receiver they need to add. Are you playing him in the slot in this scenario? Would he be a full-time slot for you? Because The Tet offensive is your big-time X. Jalen Coker is the Z. And I think also has the ability to play X, depending on, who's going to be out on the field. But that kind of makes Jordan Tyson your slot, which I guess he can do. It's an interesting option. Just think their defense is really where you need investment here. If you're going to go something on offense, I'm thinking maybe a tackle would be more likely with the injury to Ike Ekwonu. It's not like Taylor Moton's getting any younger. I still think cornerback would be in play. I know Mike Jackson was great down the stretch. He's 29 with an expiring contract after this next season. It's not bad to plan for the future, even though he had a great second half, was solid in the playoff game, right? Linebacker is a glaring hole. Edge rusher, huge need. So I think that based on the players available here, I might prefer a linebacker. And there are some good options. Even though this is a deep linebacker class, you don't necessarily need to do it at 19. You may have to, because I don't know if C.J. Allen's going to get to you in round 2, or, maybe Anthony Hill or Josiah Trotter. I get it from a BPA standpoint. I just don't know that this is the best pick the Panthers can make. I think he's incredibly talented. I think the injury history is concerning. I get grabbing BPA, but I just think the defense is so flawed. That's where I might invest some resources, or potentially even a tackle. But Tyson, quite a good player. I just don't love the fit for Carolina at this particular time. At number 20, I just said this. Keldrick Falk does feel like a Cowboy, but he feels like a Cowboy at 12. That's where he feels like a Cowboy. Tough evaluation, great size, and is a smooth athlete, but I like to see him play with a little more urgency. The upside is tremendous. Well, he's got, great length, really, really long arms, really good run defender. I still kind of view him as an interior player. Like, if we're going to talk about Ruben Bain because the short arms thing as an interior defensive lineman, I think Keldrick Falk, obviously extremely long arms, I think he profiles to the inside. And his pass rush bag is not very deep. So, what are you banking on with, what is the upside for Keldrick Falk? How is it tremendous? Is he suddenly going to learn to use his hands as a pass rusher and be really disruptive in that way? I don't know. Is speed to power just going to become his thing? I don't know that he's that explosive, but I think he lines up well on the interior. He's a good run defender. I agree. He's an interesting eval for sure. But I don't know that the upside is tremendous. He has rare size and length, of course, but I don't know. I don't know that I see him being a dominant pass rusher based off of what we saw at Auburn. I liked him a lot coming into the year. Didn't really see it as much in 2025. And I like him as a 5 tech. I don't really know. If you can get him on a runway on the outside, truly off the edge, a 7 or even a wide 9, okay, maybe, but is he explosive enough to close the distance and then turn speed to power and put pressure on the quarterback in a meaningful amount of time? These are some question marks for me. Steelers at 21, Denzel Boston. I think it's a great fit. Great fit. Steelers must find someone to complement DK Metcalf. Boston is another big physical receiver to play opposite the 2-time Pro Bowler. A different player, though. They both can get vertical. Metcalf a lot better at it than Denzel Boston. But Boston, I think, arguably has better ball skills than DK Metcalf right now. DK Metcalf is just, I'm going to run by you in some way, and then obviously has a speed after the catch. Boston is not as explosive. He's not really a route running technician at this point in his career, and I think with his size, it's going to be tough to do that. But in terms of someone that will actually go up and catch the football, Denzel Boston is quite good in that regard, and the Steelers could use that. At 22, Lee Hunter from Texas Tech. Hunter's one of my early draft crushes. Outstanding size, quickness, and the ability to disrupt. With Teair Tart due to become a free agent, Hunter would provide some insurance. Yeah, I would agree with this generally. It would surprise me to see him at 22. Like, but I guess Kalijah Cansey went this high. So Hunter's bigger, but is not necessarily elite against the run. Like, you think of him as a nose tackle with the size, but like he's someone I've seen get moved off the spot too easily for his size. So he's an interesting player for me. The flashes are great, but is he consistent enough to be a first-round pick here? And yeah, TR Tart also just signed an extension. Yeah, I think probably focus on the interior offensive line rather than interior D-line here with the Tart extension, but this came out prior to that happening. Avion Terrell to the Eagles is just too perfect. Terrell teams up with Cooper DeJean, Quinyon Mitchell to give the Eagles the best young secondary in the NFL. Former Clemson Tiger can play inside or outside. I think he ends up as a nickel in the NFL with the size, but I agree he's got the ability to play on the outside. He's like 5'11", 185, but plays bigger, is physical, can tackle, is exceptionally good at knocking the football out. Yeah, this would be a really good fit for Philadelphia that I think needs to upgrade corner. DeJean can play the boundary, not really a problem. I think he's best near the line of scrimmage and playing in that overhang role, playing in the nickel. But Terrell, I think, would play on the boundary in this scenario, leaving DeJean to do all those great things in the slot in the overhang. But, yeah, I mean, can't hate on that. Browns go Caden Proctor. Enormous human. He has like 6'7", 375. If the Browns can keep DeJuan Jones healthy, they would have a massive duo at tackle. Yeah, I guess that's true. I don't know how good it would be. Caden Proctor is raw as a prospect. Size you can't teach. He is, like, generally a good athlete, and the Cat seems to agree in some capacity. But, yeah, I don't know. This would be certainly in play, but I'm very intrigued to see where Caden Proctor ultimately ends up going in the draft. Wow, Bears go Dylan Thieneman at number 25. Bears figure to be in the safety market with the contracts expiring for Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker, and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Thieneman can play both safety spots and can cover in the slot if needed. Yeah, he's got a really good argument to be safety too in this class. Dylan Thieneman's really, really good, especially played great down the stretch. Of course, he was the transfer from Purdue. Really, really good player. And if the Bears lose all these safeties, yeah, it certainly does make sense. It seems early. This is the third safety we've seen going in the first round. Just haven't really seen that a lot recently, it feels like. Thieneman's a really good player. I guess back into the first round does make some sense. The Bears need to focus on defense. The offense is locked. I mean, you can't really make too many critiques of what they need. Receiver is set. Running back is fine enough. The O-line's very good for the most part. And quarterback, obviously, is in a great spot. Tight end's in a great spot. Defensively, they need upgrade on the interior defensive line. They need upgrades off the edge. Safety could potentially be an issue as well, obviously. So I don't mind it. Interior D-line, edge, I think also very much in play here. But yeah, with those expiring contracts, hard to hate on this too much. Bills going C.J. Allen. Linebacker could be a need for Buffalo with Matt Milano and Shaq Thompson ticketed for free agency. This is the thing a lot of people don't get about mock drafts is you're like, oh, we will just have Matt Milano and Shaq Thompson. Like, they're on the team, they will be on the team. When that's just not necessarily how this works. You got to factor in that these players could hit free agency and may not be returning, and then what do you have? So C.J. Allen absolutely makes sense here. Even if those guys were not headed for free agency, C.J. Allen would make sense here. Really good player. I think he probably ends up as a weak side linebacker in the NFL, but I think this is a good fit in Buffalo. And I mean, what are your other options here? I do like the idea of Casey Concepcion. He's still on the board. There are some good edge rushers still available. But yeah, this makes sense. Ooh, Niners going Kenyon Sadiq, tight end from Oregon. Sadiq could go much higher than 27th overall. He's undersized, yeah, like 6'3", 240-ish. But he's outstanding speed and is a competitive blocker. Yeah, the effort's there. It's good against second-level players and third-level players. Bit worse against defensive linemen, which you'd expect, and that's where the size really shows up. But the ultimate chess piece for Kyle Shanahan. giving the coach a hybrid of George Kittle and Kyle Juszczyk. Yeah, it's a good argument. I mean, I've thought about this before. Maybe I've even done this before. If he's available, especially after the George Kittle injury, this seems like a distinct possibility. I also would look at Monroe Freeling. I would look at Blake Miller, who's about to go next, as some really good options there at 27. I'd look at Casey Concepcion, knowing what we know about the receiver room in San Francisco right now. But, yeah, I mean, this certainly would be a distinct possibility. As Monroe Freeling goes to the Texans. Texans did a nice job of maneuvering to land Ariante Ursary in last year's draft. Now they get another young tackle to pair with him, who I guess he'd be going to right tackle. Freeling is just scratching the surface of his potential. I don't really know that I love this fit for Houston. Because Ariante Ursary you can pretty much lock in as a starter at left tackle. But then you have Blake Fisher, who I thought the Texans were pretty high on for the future at right tackle. Like, I know it's unfortunate Trent Brown was never healthy. I know Titus Howard was also playing some right tackle for them. Blake Fisher, I guess, is pretty buried on the depth chart, but I know they invested a second-round pick in him not long ago. That doesn't mean he's going to be much, right? But I thought they were fairly high on him, and drafting Monroe Freeling says that you're certainly giving up on him. I feel like interior offensive line is more of a need, but yeah, if you're not happy with how tackle looks, this would be an option. Rams go Blake Miller, flying a bit under the radar right now, but you'll hear a lot more about Miller as we go through the draft process. Former high school wrestler, 54 stars at Clemson, tough, competitive right tackle. So this would be an argument for why he would go ahead of Monroe Freeling to the Texans if you're going to take a right tackle. I just still don't really feel like the Rams need a tackle. Like, you can never have enough depth. Totally agree with that. Are you really drafting a sixth offensive lineman here at 29? Like, maybe. But Warren McClendon's played very well at right tackle. Played very well. Obviously, you have your left tackle in Alaric Jackson. Rob Havenstein retiring is not even that big of a deal if you have Warren McClendon playing well. You're going to draft a tackle over Warren McClendon now? Again, you can't ever have enough depth. Competition's good. But I guess it is tough. Like, where would the Rams go? I might consider a linebacker here if I were the Rams. If you're going to go something on defense, like Omar Spates stinks. So maybe an Anthony Hill, maybe a Josiah Trotter, maybe a Jake Galday even, maybe a little early at 29, but I think it could be a possibility. But Blake Miller there to the Rams. 30, Broncos going Peter Woods. Folks around the league are split on Woods' evaluation. Some don't view him as a first-round pick, but he has the quickness to add to the league's best pass rush group as an inside rusher. Yeah, be the rich get richer. And we've seen the trend of interior defensive line penetration is how a lot of good teams are built. You look at the remaining teams in the postseason, going into the championship weekend, Seattle, elite. Denver, elite. Patriots, no slouch either. And, of course, the Rams, very, very elite in that regard with, Kobe Turner and Poona Ford, and really maybe not so much of the pass rush there, but Braden Fisk, no doubt. Yeah, not a bad idea to have a strength get, making it even a bigger strength. Woods has sky-high potential. I know 2025 was far from what we saw in 2023 and 2024 from Peter Woods. I still think the potential is outrageous with him. Wouldn't shock me to see him go earlier than this by a lot. But yeah, I guess a fall is certainly in play. But Broncos, yeah, big need at linebacker. Seems like DJ doesn't like the linebackers very much here, enough to go with more than 2 in round 1. Or maybe the Seahawks go one at 32. But he's got the Patriots going Caleb Lomu. Morgan Moses set to turn 35 in March. Patriots land another young tackle to help protect Drake May. It's another left tackle. So you'd be kicking over to right tackle, unless maybe you're moving Will Campbell, which you're not doing. And we start to see Will Campbell, started to see him struggle a little bit against some more elite pass rushers, unfortunately, but mostly played well as a rookie. I'm not really too worried about him. We'll see if there's a time to get worried about Will Campbell. But Lomu, yeah, another good athlete, good overall size. And I guess you're hoping he can play right tackle. As we finish things out with the Seahawks, Brandon Cisse, South Carolina corner, great speed, And yeah, you will put on a show once we get to the testing portion of the offseason. Agree with that a lot. He can fill a void if the Seahawks lose any of their soon-to-be free agents at corner. Kobe Bryant, Tariq Woolen, and Josh Jobe. Yeah, agree. Seahawks have a big hole at corner. You can't assume any of these guys will be back. I'd like to think that they bring back Kobe Bryant, and I don't know that Josh Jobe's going to get absolutely paid, and he's played well at times for Seattle. I think Tariq Woolen is probably the one to go. Good player at times, no doubt. But I think he's going to end up getting expensive, and I feel like Seattle might not want to pay him. We'll see. Just a thought, he could sign an extension tomorrow. I don't know. That is the Daniel Jeremiah NFL Mock Draft 1.0 for 2026. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments section below, and I'll see you in the next one. Take it easy.